Have you ever watched a child run into their father's arms without a moment's hesitation, without calculating the risk, without questioning whether those arms will catch them? That's the faith Jesus is calling us to today. We live in a world that tells us to be skeptical, to protect ourselves, to trust only what we can verify and control. But Christ invites us into something radically different, a faith that looks foolish to the world, but is actually the doorway to the kingdom of heaven. Let me share with you one of the most challenging and liberating verses in all of Scripture. Assuredly, I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 18:3-4. Jesus spoke these words at a crucial moment when his disciples were arguing about who would be the greatest in the kingdom. They were thinking like adults, strategizing, positioning themselves, calculating their importance. Then Jesus did something remarkable. He called a little child to stand among these grown men. In that culture, children had no social standing, no power, no credentials. Yet Jesus held up this child as the model for kingdom citizenship. What does it mean to have childlike faith? First, it means approaching God with absolute dependence. Children know they cannot provide for themselves. They know they need someone bigger, someone stronger, someone wiser. They don't pretend to be self-sufficient. When we come to God with childlike faith, we stop pretending we have it all together. We stop trying to impress Him with our spiritual resumes. We simply acknowledge our complete need for Him. Childlike faith also means trusting without needing all the answers first. A child doesn't demand to understand the engineering behind an airplane before boarding it with their parents. They trust the one who loves them. How often do we withhold our trust from God because we don't understand His methods, His timing, or His plan? We want to see the blueprint before we take the first step. But childlike faith says, I don't understand everything, but I know you, and that's enough. There's a profound humility in childlike faith that our world desperately needs. Jesus says, whoever humbles himself as a little child is the greatest in the kingdom. Notice, He didn't say the most talented, the most knowledgeable, or the most accomplished. He said the most humble. A child doesn't approach their parent with a list of achievements hoping to earn love. They simply receive it as a gift. They know their love not because of what they've done, but because of whose they are. Childlike faith is also marked by remarkable forgiveness and freedom from grudges. Watch children on a playground. They can have a disagreement one moment and be playing together the next. They haven't yet learned to harbor bitterness or build walls. When we become as little children, we release the exhausting burden of keeping score, of nursing wounds, of protecting our pride. We forgive quickly because we remember how much we've been forgiven. But let me be clear about what Jesus is not saying. He's not calling us to be childish, immature, naive, or gullible. Paul writes about putting away childish things and growing in spiritual maturity. Jesus is calling us to be childlike, not childish. There's a difference. Childlike faith is wise enough to know who is trustworthy. It discerns that God alone deserves our complete confidence. It's not blind trust in anything. It's radical trust in someone who has proven himself faithful. The conversion Jesus speaks of is stunning. He says we must be converted, turned around, transformed. This isn't about adding religion to your life. This is about a fundamental reorientation of your heart. Many of us came to faith as adults, carrying years of self-reliance, skepticism, and pride. Jesus says that entire posture must change. We must become like children again, vulnerable, dependent, trusting, humble. Here's the beautiful promise embedded in this verse. When you humble yourself as a little child, you don't become less. You become the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. The world's ladder leads nowhere, but God's way, the way of humility, dependence, and childlike trust leads to true greatness. It leads to intimacy with the Father. It leads to peace that surpasses understanding. It leads to a life where every day is an adventure of walking with someone who loves you perfectly. Today, I want to challenge you. Where have you been operating in adult cynicism instead of childlike faith? Where have you been demanding to understand before you obey? Where have you been trying to earn what can only be received as a gift? God is inviting you back to the simplicity of trust. Run into His arms. He will catch you. He always does. That's not naivety. That's knowing your Father. That's childlike faith, and it's the only way into the kingdom.